Hi everyone. So I'm probably not going to get a chance to do a video next week, so I wanted to make sure I got another one in this week. I'm taking a week off to really focus on writing my book and shooting content for my new courses. So in the meantime, please still feel free to comment and email me with topics you want me to address in my YouTube videos. I'm definitely getting down to the bottom of the list of requests, so I'd love to hear more topics that people want me to address. But I actually wanted to address today a topic that I've been really thinking about a lot in terms of how we frame our healing journey. And something I see as a real pattern in my clients in terms of their health history and my own health history and healing journey as well. And this is really recognizing that a lot of the healing work we do when we have chronic illness is actually healing from the interventions of Western medicine. Now, it's kind of a bold statement, so I'm going to first give a couple of caveats. One is that Western medicine has its place, so I am not disregarding people whose lives have been saved by Western medicine. I've experienced anaphylaxis, right, which is an acute medical emergency. My life has been saved by Western medicine, right? So I'm not disregarding that. But what I am recognizing is that Western medicine is often very misguided in its approach to non-acute emergencies. And let me share a little bit more about what I'm talking about with the history of how Western medicine was developed. You have to understand the social and economic conditions in which modern medicine was developed. This is a time during the Industrial Revolution, and just prior to that, kind of Renaissance and Enlightenment leading up to that, when the scientific method was being established and developed. And the social and economic conditions were in prioritizing productivity and efficiency, right? This is when industry started on a mass scale for the first time, right? And so we were breaking things down into very simple components in order to boost productivity and efficiency. So this is very reductionistic, mechanistic time in history related to these economic and social conditions. And this is the same time period that we get modern medicine, right? Because one thing they were doing was saying, like, oh, if we can apply this methodology to machines and make them run more efficiently, can we also apply this to the body and increase our health and our ability to intervene in medical practice? And so the problem is that this linear, reductionistic, mechanistic ideology is not very effective in describing organic systems, I should say. Nature does not work in straight lines. Organic processes cannot be broken down into their individual parts to understand them better in the big picture, right? Because organic life works in these greater, interconnected, complex systems, right? And from those systems, we see phenomenon arising that are greater than just the sum of these individual parts. And so when you start to break them down into these, very kind of like laboratory-esque, minimal understandings, you actually don't always understand them better, right? Because you've taken them out of the context of their system, and so when you tweak them and then you put them back in, things happen that you wouldn't expect, because organic systems do not exist in isolation. And so this is why Western medicine has been really good at stopping acute crises, right? Where sometimes you do just have to break something down into its individual components just to stop a massive crisis from happening, like a heart attack, right, or anaphylaxis, or trauma from a car accident, right? If you're just trying to stop someone from dying in the moment, sometimes you can just kind of break something down and just stop an acute response from happening and keep someone alive. But it does not help when we have these more complex underlying issues, which is what chronic illness is. And what I find when I look back at my own health history and when I look at the health history of a lot of my clients is that often they initially develop some type of symptom that is indicating some deeper need for support in the body or some deeper imbalance that is happening in the body. The symptom is kind of this message popping up to the surface saying like, oh, hey, we need a little more support over here. We're struggling in this area. And so ideally what we want to be doing is recognizing that, trusting that the body has this innate capacity for healing and repairing itself, and sometimes it just needs a little extra support. It doesn't quite have the resources or capabilities to do that, or maybe a symptom is actually a side effect of these natural healing processes happening that we're misreading as a problem. And that is another issue with the Western modern medical kind of scientific approach is, frankly, an ego issue around thinking that we know better than the body and that we need to override or fix natural processes happening in the body in order to get people better. It really stems from a philosophy of feeling like we have superior knowledge than our innate instincts, and that we need to be overriding and fixing. Instead of having this deep trust in the body's innate capacity that has gotten us through thousands, millions of years of evolution and allows us to thrive and become the incredible, complex, resilient beings that we are. So a lot of times what is happening is there is this initial symptom and Western medicine intervenes and says, uh-oh, we better stop that. We know better. We have to stop this bad thing from happening. And so Western medicine tries to fix that symptom and override the process that is happening in the body. And what ends up happening is this cascade response where the body is now blocked from undergoing its natural processes of healing and repairing itself. And chronic illness is what is actually stemming from some of those initial interventions where the body is overridden and shut down and made to feel like it is damaged or inadequate, right? And that, a lot of times, is actually what I'm healing in clients. It's not necessarily the underlying imbalance, because when supported properly, that will correct itself, right? What I'm actually helping people heal from is the interventions that they have already tried that have actually shut down key processes in the body, as opposed to be supportive. So, unfortunately, just because someone is saying they come from an alternative or a holistic approach, it does not guarantee that they are actually seeing the body in this systemic way that I am talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of naturopaths and functional medicine doctors, nutritionists, a lot of folks in the alternative health sphere are actually still using a very Western perspective in their work. They are just using specific foods and herbs and vitamins in place of pharmaceuticals and surgery, right? So just because you're working with a naturopath doesn't mean you're escaping this philosophy. And I have actually seen a lot of people be similarly harmed by these kind of sledgehammer approaches from naturopathic doctors as well, or working with nutritionists that aren't. They're just kind of like matching certain foods to certain suspected nutrient deficiencies, as opposed to looking at the needs of the whole integrated body. So we really need to think about symptoms and diagnoses as leads. There is nothing magical about getting a diagnosis. The only good thing I see about getting a diagnosis is being validated that you're not crazy, that other people are experiencing similar things to you, that this has been described in the medical literature before. Right? And that's a huge benefit. I know I felt extremely validated when I learned, when I was diagnosed with mast cell activation. And even with dysautonomia, getting that the vocabulary helps me make sense of the patterns the symptoms I was seeing. That's all it is. All those labels do are describe patterns, right? They're not, it doesn't mean now you have this magical understanding of like how your body is malfunctioning. And in fact, that attitude is going to keep you stuck in this cycle of not properly trusting and respecting and supporting your body as an integrated whole. And so if your person you're working with is throwing just all these vitamins and herbs and, um, you know, I don't know, whatever else that they're doing, just kind of like picking off leads of like, oh, here are your symptoms. Oh, you have this? Okay, let's give you this. If they are really focused on specific diagnostic labels, as opposed to really looking at the whole system of your body and how it's working and how it's trying to heal itself at all times, that's where you're going to start running into issues. And unfortunately, a lot of people get really dug into these deep holes of seeing themselves as defective because they're getting these gene tests back and they're getting these food sensitivity tests back and they're getting all these GI map tests back and they're like, oh my gosh, look at all the things wrong with me, that I need to fix, as opposed to, again, backing up and looking at the whole system and recognizing your body is just asking for more support. And we can certainly target that support by looking at the symptoms, right? Because any symptom is a communication device. So we can look at the leads, right? We can see the patterns in your symptoms. That's going to tell us a lot. But ultimately, we don't treat the leads, right? That is what's going to block the healing processes that are unfolding in your body that need to be starting not just from the branches, not just from the trunk, not just from the roots, but actually the soil, right? Just the entire environment that is providing all the contextual input for your body, because we are creatures in a greater ecosystem, and that needs to be understood and respected, and our place in that ecosystem needs to be understood and respected. And so if your people you're working with are not talking about the foundations, I don't care how serious or debilitating your symptoms are, if the foundational practices to support your body are not being emphasized, again, you are just treating symptoms, you are not trusting your body's innate capacity, and this is going to put roadblocks into your healing. So, sleep, movement, microbiome, toxic exposure, the synergistic effect of nutrients and fuel sources, your mindset, the way you regulate your nervous system. If your practitioner is not using these as your primary methods of intervention, you're just treating the leaves. You're not actually getting to the deeper roots. Now, I will say, this method takes longer to show results. When you're just snipping away at leaves, you're going to see pretty quick changes, right? Like, oh yeah, I did this and this kind of took away this symptom for a while. But it's just going to come back, or it's going to come back different, or it's going to come back worse, right? Because you're just pulling off leaves when you have a depleted soil, right? That's coming all the way up the roots, all the way up the trunk, going into every system in the body and creating these systemic imbalances that then kind of pop up as leaves on the surface and give us our diagnostic criterias, right? So if we focus on these foundations, which can take a long time to correct, like it's a process of years, re-regulating and rebalancing these foundations, that is what is going to allow the body's innate capacity for heal and repair to turn back on. And if we have an attitude of trust and humility when we are working with the body and we don't think we have to override and we don't think we know better, that is a game changer. That is what really allows people to heal on the very deepest level. So I hope this all makes sense. And again, not throwing anyone under the bus. Every practitioner out there is doing their best, and there are a place for all types of interventions and modalities. So this is just a way of reframing our bigger philosophy in terms of what we're working with and why even if you've like tried all the things, right, you may not be seeing the results you want because you are approaching it with a misguided philosophy in the first place. So let me know if you have any follow-up questions, any comments. I'd love to continue this discussion further. But yeah, that's my video for the week. I'm trying to think if I had anything coming up. I'm mostly just working on my book right now, and we are going to be in Boulder, Colorado for my other business, Soothe Wellness, where we do nervous system regulation workshops in person. So if you're in the Boulder area, definitely look out for us, experiencesoothe.com. And we are going to be also giving an online workshop in September called Brain States for Healing, which is going to give you those foundational mindset and nervous system practices I was talking about to help your body heal itself. And then I'm still running my course sale. So feel free to message me if you're not sure which course is going to be best for you, but my Countdown 25 code is still giving people 25% off of all my courses. And I still have, I think, one opening for an intake in August if you're wanting to get in this summer. Otherwise, I'm looking for September mostly. Okay, thanks for watching, everyone.